Hello and welcome to the Buena Vista Project, a podcast about Mexican-American history, politics, cultura, y más, coming to you from San Antonio, the Mexican-American capital of the United States. I'm your co-host, Michael Quintanilla.
And I'm your co host, Elaine Ayala. Joining us today is our friend and fellow journalist Hector Saldaña, who is presently the interim director of the Wittliff Collections at Texas State University in San Marcos, where he's also the Texas music curator. He's also the curator behind the Selena Effect, the exhibition honoring the queen of Tejano music, Selena Quintanilla Perez, currently at the Wittliff and closes this December.
Also with us is San Antonio fashion designer Martin Gomez, who in the early 1990s helped bring Selena's fashion dreams to life. He created the fashion line for her boutiques, including one in San Antonio, and was a close friend and confidant. Two of his designs for Selena are on exhibit, as are sketches, photographs, some of her favorite beads, a diary entry, among many that will become a book about their friendship. Martin Gomez and Hector Saldaña, welcome.
We also welcome our friend and celebrated photographer Al Rendon, who's in the studio photographing this episode for the Wittliff. You'll soon see several of Al's photos that Hector will reference throughout the conversation. Al's iconic photos of Selena have been acquired for exhibition in the National Museum of American History and the National Portrait Gallery, both Smithsonian collections.
I see him over there.
Yes. I see Al.
Okay, it's your. Oh, it's still my.
You're saying?
Hector, take us inside the making of this exhibit. How did you conceive it, curate it, and call it the Selena Effect?
Well, it's apropos that Al is here in the shadows because a photograph that he discovered of a teenage Selena that was unpublished in 2022, he brought it to our attention. I made a small exhibit in sort of an out-of-the-way part of the galleries, and I noticed right away that young people, men and women, were taking pictures of it, taking selfies with it, and I was started to wonder, these young people, they're born after the Selena movie. I mean, and it was obvious that they weren't all necessarily Tejano fans, what is it that was speaking to them? So at that moment, I did kind of think of that idea, the Selena Effect. Right. And I wanted to try to figure it out. It took me about 3 years to figure it out.
Yeah. We can see that Selena Effect in modern popular culture. And you're right, some of the people that are drawn to her were born after her death.
So just to be clear, I was wondering, could a museum, we deal with things in the past, right? And we're a research center with archives going back hundreds of years. Could we conjure an artist in the present tense and projecting into the future, what's going to be the entry point on Selena? So, it struck me that she is, her legacy is growing. She's an icon of the magnitude. In my day, it would have been Marilyn Monroe, right? Or James Dean. But she's like Tupac Shakur or Princess Diana. She's huge. And she crosses, to call her a Tejano queen is really too limiting. So that's where I thought to do it. Al had suggested getting Martin and Martin Gomez, I call him Martin, but Martin Gomez involved, her close friend, and we just, it's really like a tiger by the tail when you talk about Selena.
And fashion is certainly a hook for Selena's memory. Talk about that, Martin.
It's so funny because going back now 30-something years, the relevance of fashion when it comes to her legacy is as important as her music. Yet, we have limited information about it. So I decided that it's time for me to be public. I wasn't. I kept those memories and I kept those stories close to my heart. But as life grows, you start realizing through television, through media, even through celebrity, that the Selena Effect was brewing since the early 2000s. What most people don't realize was that fashion was really what Selena's passion was all about. Mm-hmm. And I was just fortunate to be the conduit to work alongside with her, and to have a label Martin Gomez exclusively for Selena, which, if you look at timeframes, it really was the first celebrity brand ever. So I think it's so relevant now that I share my story, because fashion has become such a huge, huge part of the global environment. And when you think of how her effect, not just in marketing, but in her costume and her music, how important it is even now, I think that that is, for me, a gift to her fan base and a gift to basically her history.
Martin, let our viewers know a little bit about yourself. You are from San Antonio.
Yeah, so go ahead.
And also you are a graduate from St. Mary's University and the University of Incarnate Word, where you studied, I believe, of course, fashion design, merchandising, business, and public justice, which I love. I love it. Fashion with justice for all, as it should be. And I'm sure this is something that Selena would have wanted someone like you to help her, develop her line. Can you tell us how you met Selena and how your collaboration began?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a local guy. I'm from San Antonio, graduate from high school here in the South Side. I'm from the South Side. I graduated from Harlandale High School. Then I was pre-law at St. Mary's, and then finally graduate with a degree in fashion design from Incarnate Word. The relationship started, I had embarked on a path of my dream, which was to design for dealers' department stores. I only had that dream since I was probably 7 when I first.
But that's so sweet. I love that.
Well,
because that was the big store, those store we all kind of, where we got something special.
Well, I went to the opening, and what people don't probably remember is that one of the first Dillard stores that opened in San Antonio was the Southwest Military Drive.
That's right.
And I remember
where it was,
I
the corner there.
and thinking, wow. And I ended up working there in their toy department, and I got all the ins and outs. So I wanted to be a designer for Dillard's. And fortunately for me, there was a board member that was involved at the University of Incarnate Word, and they asked me if I would take part in their executive training program. I wanted to go to Dallas. And the way life goes, they moved me to Corpus Christi. So I was in Corpus Christi doing my executive training. There was probably maybe less than 0.001% that I'd ever become Dillard's fashion designer. They didn't have designers in those days. They had buyers, and buyers were localized. So there was buyers in McAllen, there was buyers in Laredo to basically work with the Mexican nationals, who was one of the biggest percentage of their business base. And so when I was in Corpus doing my training, I went to lunch at a Woolworth store, which was very rare because I never took lunch. I was so focused on work. And I happened to meet her. She came in and I was like,
she came into the Woolworth store?
Yeah.
What did she buy?
So it was funny because I was at, Woolworth used to have a five and dime, and then there was a cafe.
A counter.
And I was in a booth with the person that was training me, and she popped in. Like, she just popped in and looked, and when she walked in, I turned. We made eye contact, and I was like, wow. Apparently she had just done some media, so she was all dressed up. And I remember I basically said, wow, who's that? And my friend, her name was Roseanne. She turned, she goes, oh my God, that's Selena. She's famous. I knew nothing about Selena, nothing about the Tejano.
You were not the Tejano music fan?
No. Like it was in my time, all I wanted to do was to leave San Antonio. I wanted to conquer the fashion world. I didn't know how I was going to do it.
Corpus.
And I ended up in Corpus. Life happens the way it's supposed to happen. And that's how we met. And as I approached her, just to kind of be coy, and I remember as I was leaving, I picked up a napkin and I just said, I hear you're famous. And she looked at, can I have your autograph? And she looked at my badge and she said, oh, you work at Dillard's. She's a big Dillard's fan. And I said, yeah, I'm an executive trainee, but I'm a designer. I'm going to be their designer. That's what I say.
So that chance meeting led to this.
Yeah.
I want to bring up some of your sketches. So how did the two of you work together to shape her look?
So
Can you tell us about
Sure.
what we're looking at here?
So the conversation first started with just talking about fashion. And I was an idiot savant when it came to fashion. I carried magazines everywhere I went. We didn't have social media and we didn't have the technology. So it was Vogue magazine, Bazaar. And I basically started just talking to her about costume. So there was no lying. She wanted to get into the fashion business, didn't know how to do it. So I started being her costumer. And then as the conversation happened and our relationship happened swiftly, she basically said, "Can you design for me?" I said, "No." I said, "No, I want to design for Dillard's." And so that happened for months, like almost like 5 or 6 months where she kept, I said, "I'll help you." I ended up meeting her at Q Productions, which wasn't even developed. It was like a garage. And I was kind of disappointed when I
What year
showed
is
up.
this
It's
now?
1993, the
Mhm.
end of June. I had just gotten there early part of June. And so what ended up happening was she basically said, "I want to hire you
Mhm.
and I want to hire you as my designer." And she says, "Your name will be on the label." Nobody, who would do that? So that's how it started.
And what did she want her aesthetic to be?
So-
what did she want her story to be when it came
I-
to what she wanted you to do?
At the beginning, she didn't know. At the beginning, she just wanted to have clothes made. And I think with the education of magazines, I'd make boards for her. We started creating what she wanted. And
She was already doing some fashion design on her own, wasn't she?
not really. I think that's, the narrative has been changed.
Oh, okay.
People have developed a narrative.
It's part of the movie, but it
Yeah,
was
and
like-
I think
okay.
people believe that she could sketch. The last sketches Selena did was when she was like maybe 12, and those are the ones that I
Okay.
think they have them in the museum, and I think they take them to LA. But she wasn't really proud of that. She didn't know how to sketch per se, and I could illustrate really well. She wanted a line of clothing that was catering to her fan base, but
Yeah.
she wanted people to understand that she didn't walk around with a bustier or a bra and jeans. That wasn't her
For stage.
aesthetic. That was for stage. So she wanted something. I remember what she told me. She goes, "I want it to be funky. I want it to be cool, and I want it to be washable." And I remember thinking,
So sensible. Yeah,
sensible.
Yeah.
What people don't realize now is that she had an air of sophistication outside of the stage. So as I started seeing her, I started seeing how she dressed. Selena was ridiculously sophisticated.
Mhm.
And as I started sketching for her, she started saying, "Yeah, I think I want it to be like a jacket and maybe some menswear." And she didn't have that vernacular. I taught her that vernacular. She would say, "I want to make clothes." And I said, "Garments? I want you to draw them. You want me to sketch them?" And she was such a fast study. She'd pick it up. So basically, the collection came up of just us talking about what she would want to wear.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing here:
Yes.
jackets and a reference to menswear. Were these sold in the boutique?
These were all sold in the boutique,
Okay.
and they did really well for what we did in the 2 years that we collaborated together, because of course she passed away, was, to me, even now, freaks me out because
Yeah.
I worked around the clock.
Yeah. I'm gonna go through some of these. Okay, so
Yeah.
this was
The label.
This
That was
was
her
her
label.
label.
That was her label. And the weirdest thing is that she basically said, "I want your name on the label," which I thought was such an incredible gesture.
absolutely
So generous.
So generous.
Yeah.
And I think what ended up happening as we started, because we started first doing costume, and then she hired me as her designer
Right.
to do a line of clothing.
I want to go back to this. Here we go. Hector, maybe you can tell us about this photo.
Well, this is a photograph by Al Rendon, and it is one of the images on display in the galleries.
Okay.
And the significance is that I love the photos because we have Selena, but we also have Emilio Navarra, the queen and king of Tejano at that time. When the pinnacle Tejano, these are the penultimate stars.
Mhm.
You have them with Robert Sosa this is for a Coca-Cola. campaign commercial that was happening. So I just liked it because we have both of these stars are not with us anymore, and you see them in very young and in their prime.
Yes.
I wanted to add, as I'm listening to Martin and as we're thinking about the clothing and Selena, is that one of the things that Martin provides as a historian for me is a viewpoint of Selena that is not filtered through a record company. It's not filtered through her family. It's not filtered through her faith. So we're seeing an insider's point of view, but also not only an insider's point of view, but also a conduit that brought out her dreams. You see what I mean?
Yes.
That collaboration, in a sense, is helping her become Selena that we knew. And so that is really what I've come to realize of Martin's role in that. It's very important.
Becoming Selena.
Becoming Selena.
Yes.
Because that was the project, right? Becoming
Yes.
who she ultimately
Yes.
became. And now we're at 31 years since her horrific death, and her killer remains in prison. So what are your thoughts now about how this affect? Maybe you could take it first. This fact that has this mystique about Selena.
Well, first of all, she died. She was 23 when she died, very young. We have a lot of photographs on display that show these different phases of her, and you do see that confidence that starts to come out. But I think it's just that pure joy that she had. She is an artist that had a light inside of her, and it really is. She's part of a continuum of singers that goes back to Lydia Mendoza, Shakira, and beyond. So it's fun to think, who is she going to be inspiring? What is she going to be inspiring? Fashion is going to be a big part of it. And also, when she died, let's not forget, she was ready to make a major move into the mainstream, into the American pop market. It was going to be all about fashion. It wasn't going to be about Dinos. It was going to be about her solo sort of mystique. And this gentleman was a big part of creating that.
Hector, so culturally speaking,
Yes.
why you spoke a little bit about this, but
Why now?
yeah, well, Selena is always in the present, right?
Yes.
So culturally speaking, why do we adore Selena? What's the mystique, if that's the correct word here, that keeps her so present? And yeah, I've been thinking about this. Of course, there's so much that reinforces her legacy. So in 2023, she was posthumously awarded the National Media or Medal of Arts, which is the highest artistic honor given by the U.S. government. President Biden gave it to Suzette,
Right.
to her sister Suzette at the White House. 2 months ago, the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles created a special pop-up exhibit,
Right.
Selena from Texas to the World.
Right.
3 months ago, Netflix premiered yet another Selena movie. This was a documentary, Selena y los Dinos. And even MAC Cosmetics, I have it right here, created a makeup collection in her honor. Now, when I received this to write a story about it, it had real white roses in it.
Oh, and you replaced
And I replaced it with artificial ones, and I still have the original.
And there are women all over the country that want this so bad.
It still has the original collection in it. So, my question to you, as we wrap it up here, is why does her image and artistry remain alive in our Mexican-American
Well, because she
culture?
was that good, and because she appealed beyond the genre that she was in, and because she represents a dream unfulfilled. She represents the dream of her father. There wouldn't have been a Selena had it not been her father being a musician from the 1950s. So she was living his dream. She was living her dream. She represented this sort of new age in Tejano music. She was a rare commodity, a woman, but also a young person. Tejano is always skewed a little older, male dominated. So I think the Selena, she becomes almost a lot, to me, reminds you a lot of like Princess Diana, in that she's sort of a blank canvas for our inspiration, and like Tupac Shakur, because she's such an image.
She's a vessel.
She means something to the culture. So it's that combo that goes, it's cultural, but beyond that. So I think that's a very potent combination.
And Al, where are you? Come over to Martin's.
Yeah, and Al, you worked with her.
Al, I'm sure you have lots of remembrances. Come toward the mic a little
This
bit.
is your photo, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Let's how beautiful that is.
Second to the last photo shoot I did with her, that was for the family, and they had been expanding the band, and we took all these group photos, and then we did some more single photos of her. And she was just a pleasure to work with. She was so creative and so easy to work with. I didn't really need a director. I mean, she would show up so prepared with all her outfits, with her makeup. I would have a makeup artist, and he didn't need to be there. I mean, we just had all these preparations.
It's a goal cap shot.
I know. I want to find
That goal cap.
I was.
We also have an altar by David Amor.
Kind of fast.
It's okay.
I think it's there, girl.
Oh my God.
Oh,
That photo, one of the last photo shoots I did for her for Coca-Cola, and she's actually holding a Coke, but it's cropped out. And she showed up for that photo shoot with racks and racks of clothing and a trunk full of shoes, and it was amazing. And the nice thing about working with her is I didn't push her. I didn't try and put her in a box or say we need to do it this way or that way. I let her be herself, and I think that's one of the reasons we had a good working relationship, because I let her be Selena, and I gave her very minimal direction. When we did this particular shoot, it was for a big stand-up that was going to go in all the stores, and
Wow.
I started off going, okay, can we just do you very simple, not too much makeup, jeans, a regular white top, a little jean jacket. And we just worked our way through the photo shoot, and we got more and more glamour involved.
duet.
And this is towards the end of the photo shoot.
And this beautiful image is wall size in our gallery. So we have it catches you as soon as you walk into the Wittliff Collections, and draws you in. So it's remarkable.
I don't know, Martin, maybe you can tell us about this, but before Selena, I didn't see as much emphasis on lips and asses.
Booty.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if that is because I associate all that with her, or whether she was the one sort of making that popular.
Well, I think
Before the Kardashians.
Or
Oh,
the
you are.
Kardashians.
Definitely the modern era.
I think Selena was true to herself. She was Latina, and she was Mexican, so she was curvier. What people don't realize, Selena was tiny. I have a book with all her measurements.
Wow.
Because I measured her, because she was notorious for gaining weight during the weekend. She likes something.
My God, I still do. But all after my own heart.
But I think that that's just who Selena was. She was curvy, and even when we fit her for stuff, she wasn't afraid of showing her curves. However, she was very, very particular on not too much here, not too much there. She didn't like wearing skirts, and I actually pushed the skirts because I always thought she looked so beautiful in skirts. And when she twirled, I always wanted to see a skirt. So that's why you see a lot of skirts that were removable. This was the last fitting I had with her.
Wow.
Yeah, that gold top that she's wearing here was the last thing I fit on her. But I mean, that's why I think you don't see it, because it wasn't present. There was not that shape. There wasn't the red lip. I think Selena reminded me of the old Mexican movie star, Maria Felix, La Dona. That's who she reminded me.
That's right.
Okay, in closing, one last thing. I want to come to this. Because you are in the process of putting a book together based on your diary that you kept, and you hand wrote it.
Yeah, I mean, I have books and books. I just found more because I didn't know that I was going to do it. I've been asked to do a book back in like 95. And I said, no, I just couldn't, and then my career blew up. In 2019, I basically just said, I'd done a CNN interview, and I said, I'm going to do this. My children were like, so I thought, I'm just going to start writing it longhand first. I didn't even have a computer. I did have a work computer, but I didn't have, a writing laptop. And I'm a dyslexic. So it's easier to write. So I started writing one chapter at a time.
This is your Dillard story.
Yeah, this is how I met her.
I approached her. You're famous. I asked.
And it's so weird because I have volumes of these stuff. And then basically I got comfortable with the laptop. But the book is done. We're editing and just waiting to move forward. I get emails, literally 5 or 6 emails a day, sometimes even more. When is this book going to come out?
Well, we want
Already.
you to come back when you do have it.
Hector, are you involved with
Yes,
helping
yes.
them?
The Wittliff Collections. I mean, first of all, it's been such a privilege to display this stuff for the first time. This is, I mean, it took some wooing, right?
Yeah.
But for the first time, we have some outfits that have never been on display and those beads and all the materials. But we have a book. It's almost finished. We will publish it as part of our book series at the Wittliff Collections. The fashion students have already been turned on, and the students, it really is amazing. I think even Martin learned that the inspiration that she will still delivers to young people, that it doesn't necessarily even have to be about music. It can just be to follow your dream, which I think is a big part of that.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, I kind of want to share the truth of what I lived through, not a narrative that has been created that pretty much has, for all intents and purposes, erased me out of it. And now I just said, my children were like, it's time for you to share this stuff.
Absolutely.
And the embrace has been beautiful. I mean, through Instagram, with
very
the
emotional,
partnership
very
with
emotional. Every event I've been involved with Martin, and even like when he walked through the galleries, people flocked to him. I do feel that people have such a strong connection to Selena. They want to still communicate, touch her.
Yes.
That he provides that
Right,
outlet.
right.
I think people want to see the other side of her, not the curated side. I think people want to see the realistic girl that got angry, that cried,
Yeah.
that was worried. I mean, we were both newly married, working a lot, creating a brand. It's a difficult process, but we were also dancing together when we were, making her costumes. I think the stories behind her costumes are the ones that I think, for me, are more poignant, because she wanted to look a certain way, and I helped her move on. And you see it after 1993, how the glamour comes in. So the book it goes into everything that I think not just her fan base, but I just think the world should know more about this individual.
Well, we couldn't be happier that you've joined us, and we've already run out of time, but we look forward to you coming back, and Hector coming back when the book is finished. We'll highlight it. And Hector, as a member of our podcast board of advisors, thank you so much for helping us out.
Yes, thank you. And you can visit the Selena Effect at the Wittliff Collections at Texas State University in San Marcos. This cultural exhibition closes in December. Is that early?
26. Well, when
December 26th.
right before the campus closes.
Okay. All right.
You can find our podcast on our website, buenavistaproject.com, as well as on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music pages. Thank you so much for joining us here and for watching future episodes of the Buena Vista Project. Until then, hasta la Buena Vista.
Baby.